Hey guys, it's ToProForuGames, and welcome back to another BO4 Zombies video. Today I'll be ranking all of the perk modifiers from worst to best. On my last sound quiz, I thought I had the easiest sound yet, and I was expecting pretty much all of you to get it right, but no, I finally found one sound that tricked a ton of you. So the correct answer was the pack-a-punch sound when it's just sitting there and you're not papping. So congrats to all of you who got that one right. There weren't many of you, and let's go ahead and jump into today's sound quiz. Good luck with that sound right there, and also it's worth mentioning that all of these sounds are from BO4 Zombies, unless I mention that it's not. Besides that, let's go ahead and jump into the worst perk modifier in BO4 Zombies. Coming in at the number 13 spot on today's list, the worst perk modifier in BO4 Zombies easily goes to Winter's Wail. And if I was reading the description of this perk and the modifier before the release of BO4, I would guess that this would be one of the best perks in the game. Unfortunately, this perk just really sucks. So the modifier for this perk is a Frost Explosion triggers a slowing field around the player for a limited time. So pretty much you kind of have this barrier around you, and if any zombie walks into that barrier, they get slowed down, and it lasts like, 5 seconds, somewhere around there. And this is a really cool addition to the perk. I like it. The other half of the modifier is you store an additional charge. The massive issue though with this perk and the modifier is the charge takes way too long to recharge, because once you lose those, I guess, 3, Winter's Wail hits, the perk is absolutely meaningless. If you look at Widow's Wine from BO3, there was always a way to get back those grenades. You could get a max ammo at the start of a round. You could actually get back more grenades from the zombies that got hit with your web. So there was always a way to get it back. The perk was always useful, but with Winter's Wail, again, once you lose those charges, it's like you don't even have a perk there at all. It does absolutely nothing, and if you put this in the modifier slot, honestly, it is just the biggest waste. Coming in at the number 12 spot, we have the Bandolier Bandit perk modifier, and let me say this, I absolutely love Bandolier, but the modifier, it is, again, just absolutely useless. The only reason why I have this ahead of Winter's Wail is because at least you're using the modifier all the time. When Winter's Wail, you don't use it like half the time, but the modifier for Bandolier Bandit is you refill ammo of stowed weapons from ammo stock over time, and I could pretty much just reload instead, and then that would make my modifier completely useless. Let me further explain what this modifier actually means. So, say you have an ICR, and you shoot your gun until you have like 2 shots left in your clip, you switch weapons without reloading. What this modifier does is it will take your stock ammo and it will refill your clip. That is all that it does, and again, all you have to do is just reload, and then it makes this modifier useless. I really don't understand this one. I feel like the modifier for Bandolier should be so much better, but yeah, this just honestly sucks, and I would love to see Treyarch buff this one. In the number 11 spot, we have a PhD Slider, and this modifier is definitely interesting, but honestly, again, PhD just isn't a perk that is all that great in BO4, and putting this in the modifier slot makes little to no sense. So the modifier improves sliding distance. I don't know why you'd want that. The next thing is trap immunity while sliding. Also, I guess that'd be okay, but not worth putting some modifier slots. The last thing is increased explosion damage when entering a slide from greater heights. And honestly, it's just not noticeable in game. When I was rocking this, I couldn't even kill zombies with my slide, maybe because I was playing hardcore, but still, I don't get this perk and I don't get the modifier. One thing that I kind of don't get is why the modifier gives you just no explosive damage at all, because with the normal version of the perk, you take less explosive damage. Why not just make it the modifier gives you absolutely no explosive damage like PhD used to do in BO2 and BO1? Kind of weird, but with all of these little things you get with the modifier, none of them are useful enough to equip this in the modifier slot. So coming in at the number 10 spot, we have Death Perception, and now we're getting into some of the mods that are at least slightly useful. The last three were completely useless and garbage mods. Death Perception is the first one that I think is at least slightly useful, and the modifier, you deal increased damage to special enemy weak points. That description right there is super vague because at first I had no idea what that meant. Does that mean the elemental zombies on Ix and Voyage, or are these like Brutus and the Gladiators and the Stoker on Voyage? And from my testing, it just kills, you know, Brutus faster, it kills the Gladiators faster, it kills the Stoker faster, but you do have to shoot at the weak points. So for example, in the gameplay, I'm going up against Brutus, and I found that if I shot at his helmet, it would come off faster, and then when I shot him in the head, he would just die faster. So if you're somebody that might struggle with killing the special zombies, this might be a good modifier, but honestly, they're not that hard to take out, and I still don't think this is a modifier that's good enough to run in that mod slot. Coming in at the number 9 spot, we have the Victorious Tortoise modifier, and for this modifier, shield bash attacks can knock down heavy and mini boss enemies. I just don't understand what this modifier would be helpful for, because knocking down heavy and mini boss enemies, maybe if it did like extreme damage with a shield bash, or like insta-kill them, okay, I get that, but just knocking them down, I just don't really see the point in using this perk in the modifier slot just for that. In the number 8 spot, we have the Electric Burst modifier. And Electric Burst is a perk that I'm sure a lot of you like to use, especially on certain maps. The modifier is definitely a very interesting one. It's a modifier that I probably wouldn't use in solo, but in co-op, it might be one that would be a really good option. The description of this modifier is reloading stores an electric charge on the player's melee weapon. The next melee attack empowers the weapon to shock enemies for a limited time. The more empty the magazine, the longer the time. So to sum that up, pretty much you kind of have this electric charge on your knife, and your knife just insta-kills zombies. Like I said, in solo, this definitely is not a good option, because after a certain round, you're just not going to be knifing zombies, because you have all the zombies of that round, you know, coming after you. But if you're playing co-op, and you kind of are in your own area, and you don't have as many zombies coming at you, this could be good. It's great for getting those knife kills to get a ton of points, and on top of that, you'll get that extra XP boost for those knife kills. So this is more of a fun modifier in my eyes. Now we get into the modifiers that actually complement and make the base perk better, right? It has to do with what the base perk does. A lot of these other perks we've talked about so far really have nothing to do with what the main ability of that perk is, and that's why these next 7 are the best in the game. And coming in at the number 7 spot, we have Stronghold. The modifier for this perk is enemies killed inside the defensive circle also boost damage and armor. So the normal perk actually boosts your damage and your armor when you just stand in the circle. The modifier just gives you a different way to do those two things. I think this is a solid modifier. Coming in at the number 6 spot, we have Mule Kick, and Mule Kick has another amazing modifier. So the modifier is switching weapons faster is the first thing. The next one is the additional weapon will be saved and restored on the next Mule Kick purchase. I absolutely love this modifier just because Mule Kick did have a couple of issues from BO1 to BO3, and the first one is addressed in the mod, which is switching weapons faster. Before, having 3 guns could be kind of a bad thing because you would want to switch to a certain gun in a certain situation, and those 3 guns would mess you up. And the next thing is the additional weapon being saved, another big thing, because before, downing and losing that 3rd gun would be really annoying, especially when you didn't know what that 3rd gun was. So this modifier just makes sense for this perk. Coming in at the number 5 spot, we have the Dying Wish modifier, and this one is pretty straightforward. The player will receive full health when no longer berserk. So Dying Wish is already an amazing perk, one of the best perks here in BO4 Zombies, and one thing that always gets me with this perk is when I exit Dying Wish or that berserk mode, you have that 1 health, and on a map like IX where there's fire or just being, you know, hit after exiting that is something that can happen actually quite often. So having this modifier where you have that full health will actually save you a bunch of times. Coming in at the number 4 spot, we have Dead Shot Dealer, and this modifier is also incredibly simple and straightforward. Gain a damage boost when on a headshot streak. Another modifier that I absolutely love to use and actually goes well and complements the main ability of the perk, because if you're going for headshots anyways, getting that extra damage boost is really nice, and it honestly is super helpful when you're trying to get these headshots to unlock all these camos. Coming in at the number 3 spot on my list, we have the Stamina modifier, and this one is also simple. Unlimited full sprint, and player can fire weapons while sprinting. That second one doesn't really matter all that much, something I would never do, but unlimited full sprint is incredibly useful. Having this on a map like Voyage of Despair or even Blood of the Dead, where you have to do a lot of running to get certain perks or box locations, having this is amazing. But also for training, having that unlimited sprint, it is so nice, and I feel like once you have it on, you always want to have it on. So for me, obviously it's not the best modifier, but it's one that I use on the regular. Coming in at the number 2 spot, we have Quick Revive, and Quick Revive is such a good perk here in BO4, but the modifier honestly makes this perk so much better. So the modifier, you gain a movement speed boost after health regen starts. This paired up with stamina up is insane. You move so fast, and it can save you in so many situations. The other half is for co-op. Reviving grants both players full health and a movement speed boost. Another thing that is so incredibly helpful. I absolutely love this modifier, and I think Treyarch nailed this one. Coming in at the number 1 spot, we only have 1 perk left, and that perk is Time Slip. Time Slip modifier is so good because it has to do with the special weapon. So the modifier is special weapon charge rate and elixir cooldown rate are slightly increased. And since these special weapons in BO4 Zombies are so powerful, having the charge rate be a little bit quicker is very powerful. With the core ability of this perk plus the modifier, pretty much everything is faster in game, and I absolutely love that because the normal perk, your equipment cooldown rate is increased. That is super helpful for really OP things like Wraithfire, and then when you have the modifier charging your special weapon faster and the elixir cooldown rate is increased, you know, everything is just moving faster, and that's always super nice to have in zombies. There you have it, guys. Those were all of the perk modifiers ranked from worst to best here in BO4, and And after using all of the perk modifiers for this video, one thing that I really want Treyarch to do is go in and completely change some of these modifiers. Like, one that comes to mind for me as an example is Bandolier Bandits, right? The base perk is amazing. The modifier refill ammo of stowed weapons from ammo stock over time, it is the most useless thing ever, and there is never, ever in any situation or reason to use that in the modifier slot. So I want them to go in and make some of these bad modifiers either better or completely change them, so they kind of stack up more against some of the better modifiers here in BO4 Zombies. Besides that, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.